Maryland area,
Right.
Virginia area.
Right.
Steve Bassett conference is coming up. I think Steve's supposed to
I
be
was
here
going to
tonight.
talk to him. Oh,
Yeah,
really? Oh.
Sue said he was going to stop by for dinner, but I'm not involved with Steve, and I don't have any role in this conference as a
Right.
speaker. Or
Well, and actually,
so.
let me throw that in then real quick. I think you sort of had made the point in the past, this idea that disclosure, you know, I don't know, it's a little bit of a, I can't come up with a word for it, but it's this idea that's floating around that sounds real good on paper, but it's not very realistic in some respects. And I really appreciate what it is that he's attempting to do, but at the same time, the idea that the Obama administration is going to get on TV and make some big announcements, it's a little hard to believe, right?
They say that about every president.
I suppose so. Yeah, that's probably been going on for a few administrations.
You can go back to the Eisenhower
now.
administration
Right.
probably and see that Ike's going to make an announcement this weekend about the ETs.
Right. But at the same time, I mean, you look at a little bit of maybe the Rockefeller thing, this Rockefeller initiative, and the idea that Bill and Hillary Clinton had at least asked about it or tried to investigate
Oh yeah,
it.
I think that actually did occur, more or less as it's been written about, and that was the very time we were involved with Lawrence Rockefeller, with this briefing book and everything, where he had Marie Galbraith, and that was kind of fascinating. And I remember when Bruce had that job to write a brief overview of the UFO subject that was the next day going to be, or 2 days from then, was going to be given to the President's science advisor.
Oh.
In anticipation of this
Sure.
stuff with Rockefeller and Bill.
Right.
And Rockefeller was, when he was alive, was supportive of the UFO phenomenon and research into it. But that's a far cry from what the disclosure people are talking about.
Right.
Where they are way off more into the wild blue, where they're impatient with the methodical step-by-step approach that UFO researchers have used traditionally over the years. And I have to admit, that hasn't revealed many answers.
Right.
So he says, let's just
still the
assume
appropriate
they're there.
approach.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just, they're there, and it's just, and our job isn't to investigate them as much as it is to uncrack the government into releasing this stuff.
Well, if your starting point is Friedman, you can maybe make the accusation that they are sitting on some treasure trove of knowledge, and that they just simply need to admit it, and that would maybe equate to that. But I don't know. I suppose the truth maybe lies somewhere in that wide gray area in between.
Yeah, and if they have the stuff, let's say for the purposes of argument they do, and there's a good possibility they might have something there. It's not doing any of us any good, and they are not, for whatever reason, going to be forthcoming with this information. They're going to do it at their own time, and according to their own pace. Steve Bassett be damned. They're just not going to do it.
Right. Yeah,
he
could yell as loudly as he wants to. What's he going to really do?
He's a Rolling Stone. He's gathering no moss.
Right.
Because he's not.
And eventually
any
he'll
support.
die and go away.
Yeah.
Right.
He'll run out of money or whatever.
Right.
And so barking up the government tree just isn't working.
Right.
That's why the civilian researchers, both in the UFO community and outside of it, have to grab the bull by the horns and say, we don't need the government. We'll figure this stuff out on our own, because the phenomenon acts in a non-prejudiced manner.
Right.
It appears before all people and at all times, and you don't know where it's going to appear next.
Right.
It doesn't just appear to government
Right.
people. So you can get clues just as well as the government can.
Right.
And we just cannot rely upon them. You know, we can try, certainly have an effort there, but don't put all your eggs in that basket.
sure.
And that's what Steve has done.
Right.
And it hasn't done anything.
Right.
Except, it gets people to conferences, and he makes, maybe his conferences make money. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it hasn't certainly raised research dollars, and
Right.
hasn't gotten a whole cadre of scientists we didn't know about before now working on UFO
Right.
stuff.
Right.
It hasn't worked.
It was an interesting conference, and a couple of the speakers were really fascinating to listen to. Some of the evidence was really, really compelling stuff.
That's right.
But yeah, I wasn't sure what to think beyond any of that.
And he mixes good speakers in with people who, if they said it was raining outside, I'd go to the window to look out to make sure. I just wouldn't believe him.
Right.
And he's even more or less admitted that we don't want to make decisions on who's telling the truth and who's not. It's a big tent. We want them all in. Well,
Right.
Science and truth demand sooner or later that you make a judgment decision on what's right and who's telling the truth and who's not. You
Right.
just don't accept everything.
Right.
You have to make you have to discriminate against some types of data against other types.
Right.
And that's all there is to it.
Well, again, my father was a police officer in D.C. for 20 years and spent most of the second half of that doing what is now referred to in pop culture as all this CSI. It was crime scene search and various other things. But the very principles of collecting evidence, of putting a case out on the table and actually proving things to people, I mean, some of these things are a real far cry from taking those steps. And while it gets a little frustrating to just follow that sort of dry
police
science
procedural.
hard line,
Yeah.
exactly. There still seems to be, some wiggle room there. But I'm very interested, as I say, in kind of reaching out and getting the attention of a lot of, especially young people, young working professionals, college students, even high school students who are still trying to find their bearings. And I feel like there's an appetite for it that just isn't being put out there for them quite the right way.
No, you're 100% right.
So we're just trying to have fun with this show, do some, silly things sometimes, have a laugh, not take it all too seriously.
Yeah, right. That's
which
good.
I think will be appealing in some respects.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm very interested in having yourself and a variety of other people just kind of chime in when we can. We're mostly trying to cover the people. Friedman is a great example of this.
Well,
is a starting point for so many people doing their shows. We're almost doing it just to get him out of the way, so that we can say we covered him already.
Well, the UFO phenomenon at this point is people in a sense, because you can't pick up a UFO and look at it, or you can't talk to an alien, so you have to deal with people.
Right.
So it's a study of humans.
Well, unless you're Whitley Strieber.
Yeah,
you're talking to aliens on a regular
there are a
basis.
few exceptions.
Right.
But one of the good things with Stan, and is again to come full circle back to Stan, that he was doing low those many years, and he was almost the sole person doing it, was going out to colleges and universities all around the country.
Right.
But Stan would say, like, I've been in 56 states and in 800, and
Given this talk 800 times.
yeah, I've given 800 talks in all 58 states,
Right.
and if we would joke about that, but he performed a valuable service, and he did get kids
Sure.
and professors fired up about
Yeah,
UFOs.
sure.
But no one's doing that now.
Right.
And Stan is 75.
Right.
There's one other guy, I think Hastings, is Bob Hastings, is it, or something? He
Right.
appears before colleges and stuff. But okay, so there's 2 or 3 people
Right.
in the entire country that lecture on UFOs. How many motivational speakers are there that are going
That's
to colleges all the
exactly
time?
right.
Hundreds,
Yeah.
probably.
Right. That's
And
exactly
we need
right.
more of those people.
Right.
And anyone that can speak before a college class or something would be great. If you could arrange stuff like that.
Sure.
I think you might be able to get some
Well,
people.
and
How to do that.
I'm just sort of looking at the people who are already successful at that. It sounds a little extreme to say it, but even the comedians that show up to do their shows at college, there's a chance to maybe throw in 1 or 2 little nuggets and or even speak to that same group beforehand or something and just get their attention and say, this is serious enough that when you get back and you're kicking around on the web and you're doing your 53rd Google search on whatever, throw UFOs in there, see what you come up with, see what kind of information. I'm just trying to pique some interest and see what we can come up with.
Well, there's a lot of interest out there because the UFO websites and blogs get an enormous amounts of hits. But that's both a curse and a blessing.
It is.
Because people get their fix on UFOs by going to the web.
Right.
They don't have to go to conferences. They don't have to investigate cases. They don't even have to read books.
Right.
I can go to Kevin Randall's blog each day and read this, and that's all I really need.
Right.
I can go to...
And I'm up to speed.
I sort of know what's going on, and that's all it takes is a few times. And I don't need to go to a conference.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's something that... Or fortunately, that wasn't something that was around 40 years ago. To learn about UFOs, then you had to read the person's
Right,
book.
right.
You had to go and see that person speak, or go to the MUFON conference, or the NICAP gathering or something.
Sure.
And there's no... The organized groups are really, except for MUFON, have all but vanished.
Right.
CUFOS
Well,
and fund and all that.
My thing was basically this idea that I realized that in my own life and the life of almost every single person I know and work with and coexist with is this idea that I've got a day job and then I've got a part-time job and then maybe I've got a third job on top of that. And in my case, this would be that third job that I'd sort of rolled in. I suddenly got a lot of interest from the media that I've spoken to, the radio stations in the area, who said, "You're doing what? You want to do a show about what? Yeah, we'd love to hear what you have to say." And I think more people, if they knew that they could do something as a second, hobby on one hand, maybe you may make a paycheck out of it somehow. But it's that distinction we mentioned before. There's no jobs in UFOs, but it's made up of all these other fields. And
that's right. Yeah. Well, people accuse Stan of of making a lot of bucks off the UFO scene.
Right.
And I've heard that for years.
Right.
And that's just so untrue. And the man could have made a lot more money in his life if he worked full time in science someplace.
Sure.
Or within a corporation. Yeah. Does he make money with UFOs? Sure. Does he make a lot of money with UFOs? No.
Probably not.
No.
Right.
No. He doesn't make much money.
Right. Right.
You know, look, how many books would you have to sell to make $80,000
Oh, that's
year after
yeah,
year or something
exactly,
like that? You know,
yeah.
it's
There's only a couple of Dan Browns in the
yeah,
world.
exactly. It's not happening.
Yeah, that's right.
And Stan, whatever much he charges for lectures, it's not going to make him a
Right.
huge living. You know?
Right.
Yeah, he'll make money. But,
Right. Well, definitely, I'll tell him that you said hello.
Oh yeah, by all
I gotta
means.
zip back home
Yeah,
here
by
and
all
catch
means.
him. He's expecting our call, so.
Oh, okay.
I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
We'll
Mike.
definitely be in touch. We're doing a series of interviews over the next few weeks with a number of different people. I won't rattle off the list, but I'd love to be able to reach out and just say, hey, I'm talking to so-and-so today.
Okay, yeah, if I can help you on any of those, or if
That's
you ever need
terrific.
somebody interesting to speak with, like,
Oh, sure.
I can certainly put you
Oh,
with
sure.
a limited amount of people.
Yeah.
You know, that would give you pretty good conversations
Sure,
and stuff like
absolutely.
that. Like even my friend Mark Rodder, he's a few people that's
Right.
versed in the field as he or
And,
Mike Swords or someone like that.
And Don Berliner was going to be here speaking.
He is here. Yeah.
He is here,
Yes,
yeah.
Sherry Yelliker, your colleague from WBAL, is roaming around here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
I saw her, and but yeah, Don is here, and a bunch of other people.
Right.
Who would like to speak.
Right. Yeah, I wish I'd been able to plan on it. I just literally found out about it
It's
4 or
too
5
late.
days ago.
I
Yeah,
know,
when you
it's my
guys brought it
fault.
up. So
In that sense.
it's okay. Good. All right. Well, listen. Thank you very much for your time. I really
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
it.
thank you, Mike, for coming out here. We appreciate that as
And
well.
I'll keep you up to speed. We expect to be having a couple of meetings with some of these stations in the next few weeks, and they've already expressed a lot of interest. They're bugging us. We're not
Why
reaching
wouldn't
out
they
for
want
them.
it if you've got a good
Well, they like
show
the
with good people?
They like
you
the
know?
approach. They
Yeah.
like the fact that we're talking to not just experts, but a real mix of people, and they really like the target demographic that we're going after. I mean, we're interested in some older listeners and all this type of a thing, but that we're really trying to drive it with a younger
Yeah,
sort of
that's-
swell,
yeah.
and get word flying around. Twitter and all these other things. The kids start talking and saying, "Hey, I heard this. It's on this station in this area. It's it's our own neighborhood type of an attitude towards it," and I think they really like that. So we're excited about it.
Well, yeah. Again, let me know what I can do
Absolutely.
to help you.
Sure.
And I'll try to whatever I can.
That's
do,
great.
A little enough.
That's great.
So
Well, it's great to finally meet you.
Yes,
I appreciate it, and
it
good
is.
luck with the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. The hard part's over here for me.
Right,
So,
right.
you need a hand with any of your stuff?
No, I got it right here. I'll go run back out to the kids here and get back on the road.
Tell them give my apologies for keeping you.
No,
so
not at all.
long, but,
Not at all. That's great.
Drive carefully going back too.
Thanks very
Right,
much.
good night, Mike.